Inside King's College Chapel in Cambridge, the choir is rehearsing for a service that for many signals the start of Christmas. Broadcast on radio live to millions across the globe, the Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols is approaching its centenary. Our cameras have been given privileged access to the choir and a front row seat for the highlights of this anniversary year. Meet the choristers and choral scholars. Discover why King's College Choir has become such a national treasure. And just what makes it one of the best in the world. It's approaching 3 o'clock on Christmas Eve 2017. Inside King's College Chapel, people are taking their seats for the annual Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols. They, together with listeners around the world, will soon hear the sound of a lone chorister sing the first verse of the opening carol, Once in Royal David's City.
This is BBC Radio 4. And now we go live to the Chapel of King's College, Cambridge, for a festival of 9 lessons and carols.
And for the first time, our cameras have been allowed in to capture the moment that chorister steps forward. But only one man knows who that will be.
What lies behind it is the idea that if you nominate a chorister a week or 2 weeks beforehand, he's got quite a lot of time to get wound up about it, which we don't want to happen. And moreover, even if you do that, that particular one might wake up on Christmas Eve with a sore throat. And it's really down to who's in the best voice on Christmas Eve. I make the selection in my mind as a result of that, and then that's communicated to the chosen one just as we go on air.
There's this moment of complete silence in the chapel where Mr. Clibbery's listening with his headphones to the presenters, and you can hear your own heartbeat. That's the point where you get most nervous.
Say when. Go.
When Mr. Clibbery pointed at me to do the solo, it all kind of emotions came at one point, and it was just all kind of unreal. Once you're pointed at, it's very, very quick, and once you realise you're doing it, it's done. But I was very conscious of the fact that loads and loads of people were listening to me doing it, and that was quite scary.
So begins a festival of 9 lessons and carols, a service that 100 years on has hardly changed. And for the choir of King's College, Cambridge, it has brought fame and prestige. With that has come more work and more pressure. Once the holidays are over, another hectic year will begin. It's early morning, and at King's College School, while most pupils are attending assembly, the choristers are gathered for their daily rehearsal. Jack is in Year 7. He's been following Stephen Cleabury's directions since he joined the choir, aged 9.
Good. You've had that tight quaver knocked off? Yeah? Good. That was lovely. When you joined the arpeggio, that was really good. Here's the top.
Yeah, he's an interesting man. He's been teaching for a long time. He has quite a different style as all the teachers at school because he's quite old-fashioned in his teachings. Well, he makes us sit up and he gets quite annoyed at us if we don't sit up.
Rehearsal over, it's then a normal school day.
Le croque-monsieur, you might know this one because it's quite famous.
There are 400 pupils at the school, aged between 4 and 13.
Madame, très bien.
Unlike most of the pupils, the choristers are all boarders.
Barbie dur, Jacques.
Sports.
Sport.
Celui qui aime le sport.
Très bien. Barbotine.
Boarding allows an independence which very much fuels the independence that you are expecting of the musician. A child needs to still be a child, but to balance it with that sense of sort of responsibility and commitment and rigour, internal rigour. And I think boarding plays a part in developing that.
Yvette Day is the first female head at the school. She also holds the ancient title Master over the Choristers, responsible for the boys' education and health.
We do teach them to look after their voices. It is part of having a very good diet. It is part of having sufficient sleep, as it would be for any athlete. A singer is an athlete. It's an athlete of the vocal cords.
5 days each week, the choir sings evensong.
Phones off, please, and no photography inside at all. Thank you.
Today is a special service for the choristers as their parents and siblings are in the congregation.
The parents always queue in a different line to the public, so they get in first and there's reserved seats for them where you can see the whole choir, so you can see your son singing. So when my parents come, which isn't often because they live so far away, it's a really good feeling because I know they're really proud of me. Singing in chapel is quite an amazing experience. We're learning music every rehearsal. We always rehearse the mag, the canticles, the anthem, the introit and the psalm.
The choral scholars are all undergraduates at Cambridge. Joe Zubair is in his first year at King's, reading music.
The workload, the academic workload is the same. It's just that there's less time in which to do the work. But I actually think that being in the choir doesn't have a negative impact on the ability to do work. I think that having the extra commitment of being in the choir focuses you more because you've got less time in which to do it, so you have to be more organised about it.
Not all choral scholars study music.
I chose to study philosophy because whilst I've always been very interested in the performance side of music, I didn't really think academic music at university was the subject for me. Also, it might have been a bit of a musical overload if I was studying it and singing in the choir every day.
The music and choir of King's College, Cambridge represent the best of the English choral tradition. As far back as the turn of the last century, the choir was considered one of the greatest in the land. But it was the start of putting church services on BBC Radio in the 1920s that changed the choir's fortune. The first broadcast of the Festival of Nine Lessons and Carols was in 1928. David Briggs, now 101, was both a King's chorister and later choral scholar. He took part in that first radio transmission. The significance of the occasion seemed of only minor interest to the boys, as he told his daughter, Anne Atkins.
All I remember is this Mr. Anderson. He used to come year after year, but he just brought a sort of suitcase full of bits and pieces and put it in the corner of the vestry and fiddled around with them. And then off we went, you see.
And he was the only technician?
Yes, he was the only one.
I know that whenever you're talking about this, other choristers will say to you, did you sing the solo, the once and roll solo? Because you were head chorister, weren't you, in
92? I was second, actually.
Oh, second.
Yes.
And they can't believe when you say you can't remember.
I really don't know. I don't remember at all.
Because it wasn't significant at all?
No, nothing special, no.
No, right.
It's a long, hot summer. And back at school, Jack is in his element.
Well, cricket is just a brilliant sport. I could play it all day. I'd happily play 5 days test match. And rugby, I don't know why I like rugby. I just really enjoy it.
In addition to the full-time choristers, the boarding house is also home to a small number of probationers. These younger singers replace the boys who will leave the choir each year.
It's very much a gradual process. It's a probationary period. They do board during the week, so it's effectively weeknight boarding. They do the morning rehearsals. They sometimes work in the afternoons. The children are not going to be asked to be singing in main services. They're not going to be exposed in that way.
The boys come from a variety of backgrounds. Meet Vladimir, who arrived at the school in autumn 2017.
I was just scared when I came to this school because I didn't know anything much. When I came in the winter term, it was just, everything just was like a jigsaw puzzle and just fitted in.
Vladimir was born in Romania, but his family then moved to England in search of a better life. The turning point for Vladimir came when his mum took him to a concert at King's College Chapel.
She brought me to St. Matthew's Passion in 2017 at Easter and King's, and it took about 3 hours. At the end of it, I was like, Mama, can you bring me to this audition? Because I want to be in this choir.
I just wanted to see if this is just the magic of the magic of the concert, or something that he really wants to do, because, you know, it would have been a big change for us.
But for Vladimir, this was no passing whim.
I just wrote an email to the choir. The choir replied within the next 2 hours. They said, come for the informal meeting with Mr. Cleobury.
So I went to Mr. Cleobury's office, and he asked me, how loud can you sing, how quiet can you sing, how high can you sing, how low can you sing. And when that was done, my mum came into the room. Mr. Cleobury said to her, this is the right place, you have brought your child to the right choir.
Vladimir then auditioned, and just 2 months after he'd first heard the choir sing in the chapel, he was accepted as a probationer.
We miss him terribly. But it is a great opportunity for him, and we appreciate this. And it was his desire to be here.
Socialising, drinking, not paddle away. If you use the paddle, you will just go crazy.
Since you went away, the days grow long.
For the choral scholars, it's time to swap the sacred for the secular. Under the name The King's Men, the scholars perform on punts each June. The men rehearse in the afternoon.
It would be really useful if we have just a couple of minutes without singing.
Well, this is the same programme that the King's Men sings throughout the whole year, and it's chosen at the beginning of the year, and then we practice it and rehearse it throughout the year, and at Easter we had our King's Men tours around the UK, and so it kind of all builds up to this concert at the end of the year. So this is kind of our biggest audience and one of our most special concerts. Or are we? No. Yeah, no.
With that way around, I think.
Yeah. Yes. And
Let's go.
Let's go.
This will be great.
Are you going to Scarborough Fair? As Lizzie grows merry and time.
Joe's mother, Claire, has travelled over from Belfast for the performance.
He always sang from he was a tiny, tiny tot. He was able to sing when he was about 18 months old. He developed such a love and such a passion for singing that he did want to go to choir school and wanted to be able to sing a lot more. And I think he saw his future in England, at least, possibly further afield. So he looked into going to a sixth form school in England, and he ended up in Winchester.
She once was a true love of
What the song is about. Two women gossiping to each other about how good their husbands are, saying things like...
His accent is very different when he's over here. When he gets home, it changes very quickly because we pretend we don't understand his English accent.
Singing in a smaller group provides a chance for the men to show off their individual talents.
In choir, there are loads of great solos that come up, but also in King's Men, we often have the opportunity to sing big solos or in sort of small quartets and things like that, which gives you maybe the opportunity to show your personality a bit more because you're not trying to blend with everyone else, and you can, yeah, sing a bit more soloistically.
James's parents, Judith and John, are in the audience.
Yes, we feel proud of him, but I suppose over the years we've got used to him doing so much singing that it's become a way of life in some ways.
Yeah.
But of course, you're always proud when it goes well.
Yeah.
And I was always very nervous at singing competitions, music festivals, that sort of thing.
But he always seemed to enjoy doing it. That was the main thing. We weren't pushing him, just facilitating, you know, the realisation of his talent and ambition.
The concert and the evening go without a hitch. Almost.
The most difficult moment of the whole evening was first stepping onto the punts to discover that they weren't properly fastened together. One of the guys said, "Oh, it's okay, you know, just straddle the two of them, put one leg in one and one leg in the other," and then ended up doing the splits.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That was a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
But we got it fixed, so it's fine.
Yeah, and it all went okay in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now isn't she lovely? Isn't she lovely? Isn't she lovely? Now being without you can see the one that's over you.
tonight I thought was really fabulous, a really fitting end to a very, very busy first year. And the hundreds of people that were here absolutely loved it. Well, you saw at the end, you got a standing ovation.
Yeah,
it was
two
pretty
encores.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice feeling.
In July, the choir is called to chapel for its latest recording session.
Okay, just need a couple of seconds of silence before we start.
First up, Adam's Fall, composed by Richard Elvin Jones and performed by the choir on Christmas Eve in 2017.
Boys, no early S please, 1 second, until the set. Once more.
It's for a special 100th anniversary album featuring music from the archives as well as new recordings.
We're very lucky in that this chapel is our home and it has one of the most amazing acoustics in the world, so there's absolutely no reason why we would leave here to go to a studio. Yes, we have to deal with a bit of traffic noise outside, the bells that chime every hour, but it is the best place to record for this choir, and it's what the choir is known for. Yes, what I was going to suggest, I just wonder whether the boys are sitting slightly at 4-4-4.
Yeah.
Might just be worth it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just that, we just had a noise. We had a little bang underneath it. Just
Each piece is broken down into sections and may be reworked.
We can do what we call patch a little moment. Perhaps it's a really difficult bit that it would just be nice to get a really short run into. So during the session this afternoon, there was one bar that Stephen and I just wanted to do in isolation, and then we can slot that in a bit later.
Yep, that was the one, thank you.
It's probationer Vladimir's first recording session with the choir.
It's sometimes quite hard when you have to stand up for 1 hour and then have a sit down for 1 minute and then go back up for another hour and then have a tiny break and then come back.
These recording sessions are the hardest the choir works, I think, because they are aiming for 100%. It's a 3-hour session, they get a 15-minute break. They love doing it because at the end of it, they come away with a brilliant memento. It's something they can keep for the rest of their lives, and it's the way that millions of people around the world can listen to them on these things. So that's my telephone, 1 second. Hello, Stephen. Yes, I'll be with you in 20 seconds. All right, thanks. Sorry, I'm afraid I'm being called away.
Was that Steve?
It was, yeah. Yeah.
A new academic year has started. And in the choir, there are some fresh faces. Vladimir, together with his fellow probationers, was inducted into the choir in a special service in September.
We sing the anthem, which on the day was Belfer Gardener, which was a really good piece. And I was really happy, so I cried of joy.
Afterwards, they received their top hat.
We got the top hat in the vestry, and it was in a bag, and when we saw the bag, we were really excited. We were like, oh, yes, we're getting our top hats.
These will be the last new choristers that Stephen Cleobury will welcome to the choir as he's retiring in the summer of 2019.
Good, we've got the idea of these dynamics very well. Just do the first. At this early stage in the year, I'm actually pleased with the sound the boys are making. It's a good, strong sound. Of course, always at the beginning of the year, there's a question of rebuilding a degree of confidence and sure-footedness, but I think that's going well too, so I'm feeling we're in a good place.
It's really fun in the choir stalls, because when you're a full chorister, you really feel part of it. We always look at the conductor, especially when there's a new passage, because we don't want to come in late.
In the run-up to Christmas, the choir must prepare for the TV recording of the festival service. Called Carols from Kings, it's been broadcast annually ever since.
The opportunity has been taken to introduce non-scriptural readings, so there might be a piece of literature or more often a poem, and that's given us a little bit more scope to vary what we do. But they are two distinct programmes. Radio is live on Christmas Eve, television is pre-recorded in mid-December.
And so, once again this Christmas Eve, a global congregation will tune in for the Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols on the radio and watch Carols from Kings on television.
I think we always want to do the best possible job we can for our own sakes, but also because we know so many people are listening. But this year there's an added pressure in a way, because we want to do the best possible job we can for Stephen, because obviously he's been doing it so long, and we want to make his final 9 Lessons and Carols as special as possible.
This is my last festival of 9 Lessons and Carols, and it's going to be a memory that I never forget, and I can't wait to make this one. And it's also Mr. Clearby's last service, and it will be a bit emotional.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be singing with my friends on Christmas Eve in one of the most nicest chapel in the world. I'm also happy for new beginnings on the next term.
What an extraordinary experience it is. You are a child who is living a sound that lifts the spirits of the world who listens. There is no stronger power in a child's voice than the power to change the way people think. That's being a chorister.